So I've got to ask, I've read that this started with you and Greg in somewhere up in New York, and you guys were like, God, our lives just suck, or something like that.
Yeah, pretty much. I'm an actor. I'm an actor here at the Okra House Theater. And I've turned 40, and I was beaten down. I was like, is this it? Is this where I've arrived? I have a lot of friends who have been successful. I had a chance to actually go out to LA and do the TV show Scrubs. And so that's when I thought, like, oh man, this is it. And then I actually watched that episode of Scrubs bartending. So I wasn't even like, I was working as I watched my own episode. So that's how my life had come to that point. And I was talking to Greg. It was snowing outside in New York City, and he was telling me the exact same thing. As I was looking at him, the snow was falling, he was drinking a whiskey, and it looked so poetic and cinematic. And I was like, that's the story. It's my story, but I'm going to use Greg's music and him as the vessel. And so I wrote it all down, the entire script on a napkin that night. I'm joking.
Yeah.
It took me a long time to write the script.
Whiskey plays an interesting thing in your production company too, yeah.
Yeah, we're Whiskey Beard Films, so whenever you see Greg, we get confused a lot. We'll have beards and they probably smell like whiskey. That was just a kind of a no-brainer. There's lots of whiskey in the film as well.
So I've got to ask, is your connection to Tim through Scrubs, or was it later on?
Oh, no. I've been friends with Tim for a super long time, just like family. Like I've known Tim for 20 plus years. I mean, we spent many Thanksgiving and Christmas together, and that's the reason I was on actually Scrubs, was he gave me the hookup on that.
Okay.
So yeah, our kids and his kids are like best friends. They're all the same age.
Aww.
And so my wife's in the polyphonic spree as well. And so my kids have kind of lived on a tour bus, and they've lived life with us on this whole entire journey, especially this film. Because my 17-year-old son edited the film.
I was curious. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Let's talk about where. I want to jump straight to Tim's outfit in this movie.
Oh yeah.
And that coat, especially. How much fun was it for him to get into that?
Oh
role?
my gosh, it's hard to get him out of the wardrobe. He was loving it. He kept adding layers. I think he added the little Marilyn Monroe, and then I added the eye patch. We just kept layering it, and I had this crazy landlord, and she was old. And she would always just answer her door like that. And then my aunt's name is Troylene, which is a crazy name. And so I just put all that into Tim, and he just jumped right into it. And it's cool because he kind of bookends the film when you watch it.
As far as Greg's performance, I was blown away. I mean, he's a musician, so I mean, I know he can show angst, but how much fun was it to see him kind of become alive on screen?
Oh, it was insane. I think it's because it took so long to get it together, as in financing, which we got no financing. We made this thing for no money. And it was real. I wanted to film the film in December to show people Texas in the winter. It's really bleak. There's no tree, there's no leaves in the trees. I was like, I am not filming in the summer. And then fast forward, we filmed everything in the summer. And it works because he's miserable, but he really, really dove in because we didn't have a lot of money, so we didn't have a lot of crew. It was basically me, the DP, and the sound guy, 90, and Misty Fields who helped out. It was just us. So I think that he just felt comfortable, and it wasn't a huge production, so it wasn't daunting for him. I think he could just dive into that character, which I wrote for him, so it's a lot easier. I learned that from Matthew Posey at the Okra House Theater. He writes for you. He asks if you can be a part of the play, then he writes your strengths, I guess. And so that's the one thing I took away, and I really wrote the film for Greg.
As far as showcasing this area, showing Deep Elm especially,
right?
I love that you did it at night. All those great, beautiful night shots.
Thanks.
And can we talk especially about the opening, the luck of the dart rail coming down right at the...
Oh, my God.
That was beautiful.
It was. That was I just got chills when you just said that. That was the entire film. There was moments when people go, how much did that cost? I'm like, $0. There's some stuff at the rodeo that happened. There was just, things honestly, I was just walking on these invisible stones, that just every time I took a step, there was foundation there. And so, the opening sequence, we had 2 chances to do it because it's an 18-hour day at that point. Everybody's cashed out. And that last scene, that was the take. and we all looked around, and we did one more for safety that we didn't end up using, but that was the first take and the only take pretty much.
Wow, incredible.
Yeah.
It looks amazing.
Yeah, and it really, I wanted to start the film, because the film is pretty slow-paced. I'm not comparing our film to Paris, Texas, but if you watch films like that, they kind of set the tone, and the films like that, you can kind of buckle up and know what you're getting into. And I felt like just with his voice, just showing Deep Ellum, just that pacing, and then when the railroad thing came down, I was like, oh yeah, that's it, we got it.
As far as shooting people playing, we had Stars Born blow up.
Right.
And you look at that film and you barely see their hands.
Right.
Your film does the exact opposite.
Exactly.
I think anyone who's played music looks at your film and goes, thank you.
Exactly. Yeah, that was the thing. I was really inspired by the film Once. I don't know if you saw the Once. Okay, so that was a huge player. I always say our film is like Once meets The Wrestler. If you can put those two together in a blender, in a way, we follow this lonely guy, but there's music and there's a little bit of love in there. But yeah, I would rather have a musician get into his acting skin than an actor try to be a musician, because it never, ever, ever works. And Greg is such a talented and prolific musician, and the way he plays and the way he picks, you can't fake that. Mm-hmm. And so the entire film we're locked in, we're showing, and it's all live. And that was the thing that they said in A Star Is Born that it was live music, but man, I don't think so, because there's imperfections in ours. There's moments when he gurgles a little bit or thumps it too hard, but I feel like as an audience member, that warmth, I think that you settle in with that, for sure.
Can we talk about father and son relationship?
Yes.
I think that's one of the most powerful moments, or not moments, parts of the film.
Oh, thanks.
Especially the birthday sequence in particular.
Yeah.
I mean, I got teary-eyed. I was amazed by,
wow,
I didn't think
thanks.
I'd be seeing something that
It's very intimate.
poignant.
Yeah. Yeah, so Matthew Posey plays Greg's dad, and Matthew Posey's a phenomenal actor in No Country for Old Men, Magnificent Seven, the TV show Sons. I mean, Matt's resume goes on and on. And I thought that I couldn't get Matt because of SAG, and I was really stressed out. Everything worked out, like I said, just walking on those stones, and it'll work out. And Matt showed up, and we shot that out in Tehuacana, at this old Trinity University, and they put us up in these bunkhouses. It was freezing cold air conditioning. We would walk down in the morning, my wife would make breakfast, and we would just start filming. So there was it almost felt like Matt's house. And Matt's a phenomenal actor, that those were things that I wrote, but as I was watching it, it was like for the first time. If you can just feel that between him and Greg, and it was nice for Greg to have that kind of performer, just guide the whole entire scene. And I wrote that character after my dad. My dad's a really sweet, gentle person, has always believed in me. And Matt just took that and, this world won't break. They loved that scene. Yeah. I'm so glad we have fans.
Another great, I don't want to share all the great film parts of the film.
Okay.
But the roller rink section, in particular, Chris's outfit might be the best outfit of all time.
With the wig. That was a last minute decision too. That was I was going through his costume and a wig fell out, and I was like, oh, that was meant to be. So I put that on him. And then Nick Earl of the Polyphonic Spree and Trippin' Daisy actually plays that song as they're dancing.
Yeah.
That was Nick Earl. So yeah, Chris Penn, I mean, he's another guy I've known for 20 plus years, and he's family. And I wanted him in it, and I couldn't really find the right thing that wasn't forced, and then that was perfect for him.
I love the Tripping Daisy shirt with the kid.
And my son's that's my son. He's got the Tripping Daisy.
That's perfect.
Yeah, he's the one who edited the film.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot of Easter eggs. And I think you may have to watch it more than once to catch there is 1,000 different Easter eggs in the film if you're a Dallasite, or if you're just a fan of Dallas and Texas in general.
Well, we're gonna go with one more Easter egg.
Okay.
I'm a P1.
Oh yeah.
So how did you get George involved in the gum?
That's old George, and he'll be here tonight on the red carpet.
Really?
He'll be at the show. Yeah.
Chubb's coming to the
Jub is walking the red carpet, and he's super pumped. He's been amazing, and we talked back and forth, and I think I was on the air 4 years ago before we started filming. All the funding fell out. Matthew Posey got shot in the face. I tore my ACL at Homegrown, crowd surfing at Chip and Daisy. My asked Jub and my teeth falling out during his scene. We're about to film his scene. I bit into a Snickers. And my 2 teeth fell out. So I was literally falling apart. My teeth did break.
Wow.
Okay. So yeah, Jub getting. Like, what's going on? This film is insane. So yeah, Jub, George Dunham. We had gone. I'd met him. He had performed with the Bird Dogs at Homegrown, one of the very first ones, like maybe 8 years ago. I know Danny Bayless, and I pitched it to Jub, and he was totally down, and he brought it. And his character bookends it as well.
Yeah.
There's lots of that in the film. So yeah, George knocked it out of the park. The gum was all him. Just his whole demeanor and his talk. I just let him roll.
And lastly, films always get hats wrong. Can you talk about the importance of Texas hats compared to other hats? I mean, like your hat compared to, I think Greg's hat in particular, and I love that he tries the black hat and he's like,
It's a little.
No,
I like when he says, "New things make me nervous." I like that line. So Stetson, Claudia from Stetson was kind enough to work with me over the past couple of years and design Matthew Posey's hat, which is a kickback to Ronald Reagan's hat, if you noticed that.
Oh, okay.
And then they designed Greg's hat. There's several hats. I think Catfish, which is Mitchell Perrick, he has a hat. They just like knocked it out of the park, and I let them wear their hats for about a year. They got them a year in advance, and so it looked like them. It wasn't like they were wearing.
There was a stain on Greg's on the corner.
Yeah, oh man, that hat, that either needs to be burned or put in the Smithsonian. I don't know. It needs to be in a glass case because that thing's gross, man. It's 100 and something degrees out every day.
Well, I guess to wrap it up, let's talk about when you found out you're going to be in Diff, but they're going to make a big deal. They're going to do the premiere here. And you guys have your own night. Saturday night, tonight. Yeah, it doesn't even seem real. With Diff, I really, and it wasn't anything against Diff, I didn't think we'd get in. Just because it's like the prophet's not heard in his own town. The film's about that. The film's about like not being accepted in your own town. And I've always put this film festival on a pedestal. I come every year, and I love it. And I nerd out. Like last night I went and saw The Death of Dick Long at 10 o'clock. I didn't get home till almost 1. I love movies, and this film festival always has the best. And when I got my letter from Daniel and James and everybody from Diff, I completely freaked out. And then it was a Texas premiere, and then it kept getting bumped up, and they're like, "Hey, we put you in the largest theater we have," and it's still sold out. So that was my fear was, what if no one shows up? You know, you work on something and you're associated with something, and I was like, what if no one shows up? And that wasn't the case. It's oversold. My phone's been blowing up, and people are like, hey, your film's sold out. I'm like, well, yeah, that's the world premiere at Diff, man. So I'm over the moon about this whole experience and just all this, and you guys have all been amazing, and I can't believe I'm here. Well, thank you for doing what you did and surviving all those stones somehow.
Barely. I'm still here.
But it was one of those moments where I watched the film and was like, oh, thank God, this is Texas, this is us.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, and that was another thing, just with location-wise, I wanted to show the world that we're not just the Dallas skyline, and that we're not Fort Worth. I love Fort Worth, but they get those things confused when you watch a sports show, and it's like they'll show the stockyards, and they'll show you're like, what? They're playing in Arlington. You're like, this is so confusing. And I really wanted to show those monolithic domes that you see there's just so many places in Dallas that I think are so unique that if you're from here or you've never been here, it's kind of mind-blowing, I think.
I think that's the way to end it. Mind-blowing.
Mind-blowing. How about that?